All right, is everybody good to begin? All right, great. I'd like to call this meeting of the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District Board of Directors to order for October 12th, 2023. Let's first call the roll here. Let's see. We've got Mr. Swafford.
Here.
Ms. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Givens.
Here.
Ms. Piedmont-Smith.
Here.
Jeff McKim here. And do we have anybody on Zoom? I know Commissioner Thomas was not going to be making it at all.
Not yet. We are expecting Mayor Hamilton on Zoom. Commissioner Thomas indicated she was not available today.
Okay, so right now we can operate under rules that for in-person meetings, but if the mayor joins us, we'll have to move to hybrid rules. So, but we do have a quorum. So we'll begin with the Executive Committee meeting minutes from August 1st, 2023. Is there anything you want to call attention to?
No, nothing particular out of those minutes, but if there's any questions, happy to answer them.
All right, any questions or comments about the Executive Committee minutes? Okay. Next, we have the minutes of the Joint Board of Directors and Citizens Advisory Committee meeting minutes for July 13th, 2023, and this will be a voting item. So any comments from the left? From the right?
I just caught a small error where Paul White was listed both as present and absent. So I think Mr. McGlasson has fixed that.
Yeah, I reviewed the meeting recording. It did not appear that he was present for that meeting, so I have a corrected copy of the minutes up here for signature.
Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I move approval of the Joint Board of Directors and CAC meeting of July 13th.
We have a motion. Motion and a second. All in favor say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right.
The mayor's.
Chairman McKim.
Oh, now the mayor is here?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll move back to hybrid rules then. Now we have the approval of the Board of Director meeting minutes from August 10th, 2023. Any comments? Hello, Mr. Mayor, welcome. Any comments or questions on the meeting minutes from August 10th? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I move approval of the Board of Directors meeting minutes of August 10th, 2023.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have to do a roll call vote.
Piedmont-Smith,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
McKim,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Sorry about the roll call. Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
Githens.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Okay, we've got a resolution 2023-14, approval of budget transfer between major classifications.
Yeah, I will just apologize, we're a little bit out of order on this, but the money being moved in this resolution is tied to a claim that will be up for approval under the payroll and claims section, so we wanted to get this presented first. And if the board chooses not to pass this resolution, then we will identify that claim in the payroll and claims for the board to consider whether or not to approve the claim.
Do you want to describe?
You want me to tell you what it's about? Yeah, so yeah, this resolution is related to, if the board will recall, it's in 2019, we appropriated money to purchase a new forklift for our South Walnut facility, and did get one ordered, a new unit ordered, and then COVID hit. And so due to some factors related to supply issues, the equipment was not able to be built in time for the purchase to happen that year. Subsequently, the manufacturer, after being able to complete the equipment with that model that we'd ordered, there were some emission issues with EPA standards, so we could not complete the order. And subsequently, the vendor stopped responding to our request to contact. So we started looking at other vendors and did finally, just recently, as indicated in the memo, identified a used unit through Crown Lift trucks that met the needs. almost identical specs to the unit we'd identified to purchase in 2019. And given the difficulty we've had in finding a unit, staff went ahead and moved forward with authorizing acquiring that piece of equipment. However, we did not have that budgeted for this year. So we have identified funds in the personnel services category, specifically in the health insurance line, that are going to be in excess of needed expenditures for this year. They could be transferred to the capital category in order to pay for that purchase. And that is the claim in the payroll and claims that we need to move this money for, that would need board approval today. And then additionally, we have a lift station at the landfill that's needing some major reworking done on it. So we're also asking to move money out of the landfill capital improvement line into the professional services line to help assist with funding that lift station rebuild.
Great, thank you. Questions from the right? From the left?
Mine's not a question. When I was reading the specs, this forklift will lift things up to 12 feet in the air. It's at 180 inches.
I'm sorry?
This forklift will lift things up to 12 feet in the air, it looks like, when I looked at the specs on it, which I just found incredible. So it's not a question, just an observation.
Any questions or comments on Zoom? Yes, Mr. Hamilton.
Thanks. It makes a lot of sense to get this. I no problem with that. I'm just trying to understand, just help me understand the finances. This was in the budget, in the capital line back in 19 or whatever. What happened to that money? And then why would we not? Anyway, I'm just kind of curious what would happen with the health insurance money if we didn't use it this year. What happens to that money? Does it go into the reserves, I assume? And why wouldn't, anyway, just help me understand the budget dynamics, I guess. It seems like a smart thing to do. Go ahead and buy it.
Well, the appropriation in 2019 for the new purchase was ultimately encumbered into 2020, anticipating being able to complete the purchase then. Since we weren't able to, that money just reverted back to reserves, to the general operating fund cash reserves. And the health insurance funding, what was discussed with the executive committee a little bit, and that is a line, if you'll recall, during this year's discussion regarding the 2024 budget, we did not request an increase for the health insurance line, even though we anticipated an increase in the premiums. And that's just over time. The excess funding in that line has just continued to grow. We generally, as a course of habit, we budget excess in that line just because you don't know employee changes or employees get married, have children. Insurance needs increase, and we have to be able to fund those should those occur. And over time, where we just increase that line by 8, 10, 12% based on what the health insurance increase is proposed to be, that excess funding in there has grown, in that same manner, and has gotten to the point that we certainly have more in there than we need, regardless of what insurance changes employees may have.
Thank you. If I may just follow up, thank you. That's very helpful. So if every year when we don't spend that health coverage, health insurance line, that too goes into reserves, I would assume. Is that right? At the end of the year?
Yes. Unspent appropriations, and that's something that we also talk about on an annual basis too, is the amount of reversions that we have, and that's starting to identify where those reverting funds are coming from and moving forward. That's something that staff's going to try to rein in a little bit as we go through the budgeting process and not revert so much money every year.
Well, and I know we have a very substantial, and it's grown very substantially over the last few years, cash balance that I think is important to keep in mind. But anyway, sounds like a good idea. I'll be encouraging you to buy the forklift if you haven't already. You may have already bought it. No.
It's already in our possession.
Great. Okay, is there any public comment? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of Resolution 2023-14.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All right, let's do a roll call vote.
Swafford,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
McKim.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to cash flows. Ms. Martin.
All right.
Do you have maybe two microphones on?
I think that's better.
There we go.
Anyway, sorry. The cash flow summary is on page 22 of your packet. That shows the operating balance as of September 30th, which was $2,862,953.59. No balance in the savings account. We did move those, and that was discussed at the last meeting, but showing a zero balance. September 30th balance for closure bond debt was $21,124.31. The capital account was $45,647.40, and the landfill post-closure account was $748,216.30. The individual cash flow statements for each of these are on pages 23 to 28 of your packet, and the operating fund graph is on page 25. Questions on the account balances?
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Martin on the cash flow?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do you have anything else on the cash flow, or should we move on to payroll and claims? Okay. We move on to payroll and claims.
On page 29 of the packet, you have a total for the payroll and claims approved since our last meeting in August in the amount of $313,718.58. Documentation for those claims follows in the packet on pages 31 to 69. And yesterday I emailed you claims that we paid this week in the amount of $28,092.43, which was all just claims for board approval. And included in that claim is the check to Crown Lift Trucks, not on the approved vendor list, for the purchase of the forklift and the maintenance agreement. And that was a total of $25,627. That brings the total of all of the payroll and claims that we're recommending for approval to $341,811.01. Questions on the claims?
Thank you. Any questions from the left? Or from the right? Please.
Yeah, I have a few questions. More questions that came to mind as I was reading the claims rather than questions about specific claims. So we spent $12,276 in the past month on Heritage Environmental Services for disposal of propane cylinders, latex paint, pharmaceuticals, fuel, etc. Have we done an analysis of how much of that is subsidized and how much we actually cover with fees that we charge people? Do we have an idea of that?
I would ask Mr. Long. He would have the breakdown of those shipments and any revenues and expenses. Are you at your desk, Mr. Long?
It's like
Yeah.
this.
I currently don't have them, but I could work on them tomorrow and start getting them for you.
Okay, that would be helpful, I think, so we can see if if we're kind of keeping up as far as our fees.
Okay.
I understand there's reason for a subsidy, but we also know that everything costs more, and
Yes.
we don't want to just keep increasing the subsidy.
I think that, the bulk of that material, or I guess I won't say where, but those types of materials that go to Heritage generally for residential sources do not have fees. So it would be, like, again, If we had any, commercial entities, again, we can't do a whole lot with commercial entities due to regulations and exemptions that we have, but we do some, and that would be where fees would be applied to those types of materials.
Okay, sorry, I should have known that. And then I noticed we're still paying K&S roll-off for glass hauling to Kitley, Indianapolis. Doesn't Rumpke accept glass? Is there, can we?
They do, and I'm actually at, just this week, finally, I think we're getting finalized on, what we're going to do with regard to, fees or rebates related to glass that we take to that facility. So we're trying to get that finalized before we start delivering material down there.
Okay, so you're in talks with them about switching over to Rumpke?
Yes.
Okay, great. I think there was one more. Let me just check here. Oh, and this was just kind of a formatting item. On pages 62 and 63, we have, actually starting on page, oh my gosh, 4 pages of German-American visa charges, where there's a paragraph that lists all the things that were charged on that visa card. And that paragraph is just repeated like 15, 20 times. Is there any way to
That's kind of
not have to repeat that, or?
That's kind of a Harris issue, and we talked about that, Tom and I discussed that, and I will try to get it fixed. It's just one of those things that I have to go in and kind of do a special thing. Otherwise, anything that's paid on that, so we have a fix. So hopefully in the future I can get it to where it's not doing that. It's just going to take a different input, but we can fix it.
Okay, it's not a big deal. I just was wondering. Thank you for working on that.
Sure.
Mr. Hamilton.
Thank you. I was actually going back to the cash statement, which you want to wait to do the claims and I can go back, or what's better? I just had a question to clarify.
No, go ahead and ask.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to check on page 22, the cash flow summary doesn't add up if I do the balance. So maybe I'm missing something, sorry, but it doesn't match the summary on the chart, the graph. It's about a few $100,000 different, I think. So I just was asking, what am I missing on that, I guess? The 2023 September on the graph on page 25 says 3.86 million. And if I add up the cash balance on page 22, it doesn't add up to 3.8, I don't believe. Maybe 3.6 or something, but.
Ms. Martin, if you have a different answer, feel free to jump in. I think that's going to have to do with closing out that money market savings account, and that $1 million somehow for this month did not get carried into the operating cash flow, which would be something that we would need to look into, and we can certainly forward corrected information. But looking at the difference, I'm guessing it's related to that money market savings amount.
It's about 200,000, I think, give or take, difference. So I think if I'm doing that, it's about, the number.
I was looking at the cash flow statement shows 2.86, and the graph is showing 3.85.
Yeah, but doesn't the graph include all 4 of these balances, or it's just the operating?
No, the graph is just the operating fund.
I see. The graph is only the operating.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, yeah, so it's about $1 million off then.
That makes sense then.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Maybe fix, I would think we should fix the statement for the record in the cash statement on page 22 then. Is that right?
Yeah, we will verify the cash flow
I'll
statements.
look at it tomorrow.
And make
Thank
sure.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Any other comments or questions on payroll and claims? All right, is there any public comment? Actually, Mr. Mayor, your hand is still up. Do you still want, do you have another, okay. All right, entertain a motion for approval of payroll and claims.
I move approval of payroll and claims as presented in our meeting packet, plus the claims that were emailed to us yesterday.
Second.
Motion a second. All right, we'll do a roll call vote.
Jones,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
McKim,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Swafford.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. All right, now we have 3 resolutions, all of which we will be voting on. So why don't we begin with 2023-15 to reauthorize Resolution 2022-02, payment of specific claims.
Yeah, as indicated in the memo on page 70, Resolution 2022-02 did have a time limit on it. It authorized, or it granted the authority to staff to issue the checks to the identified, or for the identified services and vendors for a 1-year period, which has expired. So we're asking the board to reauthorize that permission for staff. Would note for the record that in the new resolution, I did remove that time limit. We have not had, to my knowledge, there's been no issues with the process as we've been doing it. And so I think that the time limit's not necessary at this point. If an issue were to arise, we can address that then. Of course, if the board wishes to continue to limit the amount of time that authority is good for, you can amend the resolution at this time before it's voted upon.
Thank you. Comments or questions from the left? No? From the right? From Zoom? Okay, is there any public comment? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion on Resolution 2023-15.
I move approval of Resolution 2023-15, a resolution reauthorizing Resolution 2022-02, permitting payment of specific claims.
Second.
Motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote.
Jones,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
McKim.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, we'll move now on to, let's see, Resolution 2023-16 to amend the district-approved vendor list.
It's just something that we do every 12 to 15 months. We just try to clean up our approved vendor list. We change vendors that we use periodically. Vendors change names periodically. So we account for those name changes. We try to eliminate or remove vendors that aren't in regular use anymore, add vendors that we are using more regularly. So that's what this resolution does. And would note, the big one on Crown Lift Trucks is on there because in addition to purchasing the forklift, we've also entered into a service agreement with them for that piece of equipment.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions from the right? No? From the left? From Zoom? Any public comment on this resolution? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion for approval of Resolution 2023-16.
Yes, I move approval of Resolution 2023-16 to amend the district-approved vendor list.
Motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Githens,
Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
McKim,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. All right, so now we have, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
I'm so sorry. I'm going through this packet. I just want to note for the record on page 65, I'm sorry, I'm late on this, but just again for the record, I think we have the years mislabeled on that Republic graph. I just wanted to note it. We're missing 2023.
Yes.
There's two
So
different
I
graphs.
just want to get noted too. Thank you.
Yeah, you're talking about the one on page 65. Yeah.
Yes, sir. 65. Yeah. Sorry.
Is the correct one also in the packet somewhere? Because there was an email exchange about this. At the,
Page 69
Yes,
does
there it
have,
is.
yeah, and I apologize, that was, the incorrect chart was pointed out when those claims were submitted for review and the board chair approval. So I did, the corrected graph is on page 69 as it was included into the email response to that question regarding the graph.
And for some
Sorry,
reason,
thank
you're
you.
still missing the July of 2023 data.
When I updated the graph to make sure we had the correct one for that reply, I could find no record where they had billed us for that month yet. So it's possible that if they haven't billed us, it's possible that Mr. Long is still working with them on reconciling that bill with the receipts that we have. But I'm sure they'll catch us eventually.
Okay, thank you. All right, okay, so now let's move on to the final voting item, Resolution 2023-17, to revise the organizational chart of the district.
Yeah, and it just, a housekeeping measure, probably a little past due on this, but if you recall, we did in 2023, when we did the budget for this year, we did create 2 new positions. And then if you'll recall, 2 or 3 months ago, we came to the board with some reorganizing some positions due to some resignations that we had at South Walnut. So staff just felt it was time to update the organizational structure to accurately reflect, our current structure for the administration and the facilities of the district.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, do you have a question about this one? No, okay. Questions or comments from the right? No. From the left? Is there any public comment? Okay, seeing none, we have 1 member of the public who's attending our meeting. All right, I'll entertain a motion on Resolution 2023-17.
I move approval of Resolution 2023-17 to adopt a new organizational chart for the district.
A motion?
Second.
Motion and second. Okay, a roll call vote, please.
McKim,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. Okay, so that's all the voting items. So now we have a couple of updates. First of all, we have the district rebranding update.
Just we really started to make progress on that rebranding, and the subcommittee that that has board representation, staff representation, and CAC representation. At this point, do anticipate that at the November meeting, a resolution will be presented to the board to formally approve a name change of the district. Still looking at making that effective on January 1. But doing that name change now will allow us to initiate some of the required steps with regard to notifying vendors, the IRS, the Secretary of State, of that name change, so that at the beginning of the year, everything is in place to hopefully have a seamless transition to that.
Great, thanks. Let's see, does anybody have any questions for Mr. McGlasson? Yeah, please.
I was just wondering if we were planning a public event in early January to kind of launch the new branding.
That is planned. Don't really have a lot of details at this point, but that's something that we've discussed with the consultant, and the consultant and his team and Ms. Pokral will work on a media plan to announce and roll out that change and make sure we have everybody aware.
Sounds good, thank you.
Mr. Hamilton.
Thank you. This is very exciting. I assume we can't talk about it yet. Is that right? So you don't want to share that. I guess I'm curious thanks for the committee work, who was on that committee, if I could learn that. And I gather this will not, we don't really have a choice, is that right? I mean, we're kind of deciding, the committee has decided it, or the executive committee, but I'm just curious, but it's very exciting.
Well, the board would always have the option to vote down what is presented to them, but again, we've had board staff and CAC input in putting this together, and we are pleased with the name and the logo that we have selected, and we certainly hope and believe that the board will like it as well.
And thanks for those who served. Can you just remind me who served on the committee? I'm sorry, I've missed some meetings probably.
Do you want to name who served on the committee?
Oh, from the board, Ms. Piedmont Smith, from the CAC, Joseph Winia and Ryan Edwards, and from the staff, myself and Elisa Pocraw.
I'm on the edge of my seat. Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Great. Okay. Speaking of exciting, food waste composting update.
Unfortunately, this one is not quite as exciting.
Wow, okay, fair enough.
As you can see in the memo on page 86, you've continued to work with Sean Mia and the city's Office of Economic Sustainable Development on this issue. We did send out a request for quote to see what kind of financial commitment it would take from the city and or the district to subsidize picking up where Earthkeepers left off. Unfortunately, we did not get any responses to that RFQ. Did have two entities. One indicated another opportunity had come up that they needed to devote time to and didn't want to submit a quote, concerned that they would spread them too thin to try to do both expansions at the same time. And another entity did express some interest, said that, but due to scheduling, did not feel they had time to adequately prepare a quote and get it submitted by the deadline. So made some inquiries with legal regarding options to move forward at this time to see if, since we had at least those two entities that expressed interest, even though they didn't provide a quote, to see if we can just directly engage with them and try to move that forward. There are a couple of other options the staff has been looking at, Mr. Long in particular, that will probably not serve as wide a swath, broad of the community as doing a residential collection would, and probably would be more costly, but we're continuing to look at some other options as well, just to do what we can to continue to collect that food waste and keep it out of the waste stream.
Great. Thank you. Questions?
Well, I just wanted to comment. We are also still awaiting the additional study that the City of Bloomington Utilities is undertaking on the possibility of creating an anaerobic digester facility, which could perhaps eventually accept residential or commercial food waste. So we're kind of waiting to see if that is going to go forward. That might be an option in a few years.
Thank you. And actually, Mr. Mara has a question here. Maybe he can also update us on the timeline on the anaerobic digester study or decision.
Sure, happy to do that. And first, I appreciate the collaboration that's going on, Tom, Mr. McGlasson, with you and Ms. Mia and others. I think that's great. On the anaerobic digestion, we do expect, I think, utilities expects to have a kind of a recommendation, probably a go, no go, by the end of the year. I think that'll include city council, probably. But they're expecting that. I know that report is close. That is a big project, multi-tens of millions of dollars, I think. And so there's a lot of work going into that. And it would, I think, primarily be focused on kind of scale suppliers of high strength waste and compostables. So it would mean some kind of aggregator, right, would relevant for that. I wondered, and anyway, we hope to get that by the end of the year. I wonder, the question I guess I had also was, I can't remember, and again, thanks for this collaborative effort. I think it's really good. Is it possible that we asked somebody to do too much? Are there pieces within the RFQ or RFI that I can't remember? Did we ask them for a multiplicity of sites, or maybe what you're talking about, trying to look at options to find a way for make it even? We can get our toe in the water. If we can't get our whole body in the water, that would be a good start. So thanks.
Well, I just, the RFQ just, asked, and I think you can see, we identified a number of organizations, unfortunately none in the Bloomington area, predominantly in Indiana, or in Indianapolis, and in one further south. That already do in essence very similar or the same thing that Earthkeepers was doing with regard to residential collection. And in some cases also, restaurant or commercial collection. And the RFQ just asked to reestablish the drop-off locations at the district facilities and offer a subscription residential collection service, for a fee in line with what Earthkeepers was charging when they ceased operations. And that, what kind of subsidy would the city and or the district have to provide to make that economical for them to do?
Just, if I may, just for what it's worth, I wonder, and I appreciate all that, and it's a tough business. I wonder if we maybe just said, anybody have an idea how to reduce our food waste going into the landfill or compostable waste? Give us an idea of what you can do for us, even if it's not what we were doing before or whatever. But anyway, thanks for continuing to work on that.
Thank you. Questions from the left?
Just one other thing to add too, with in my discussions with Ms. Mia and talking about the city's willingness to contribute funding to try to subsidize whatever it is that we can get put in place. The idea has always been that it would be a short term, and whether it was the anaerobic digester or somebody opening a new facility that would accept the materials, whether that be a private operation, a public-private partnership, or a public facility. The idea was that in a few years we would have a local option to take that material to, which would eliminate the need to subsidize the transportation to an out-of-town facility.
Understood. All right, thank you. Why don't we move on to the CAC report?
Good afternoon, directors. Joseph Winia here, chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee. I am glad to say that the CAC report is exciting for this month. 2 months, actually. It's been a pretty active period for us. In particular, we've had 3 different outings and 1 guest speaker. So it was in late August, we did our Adopt a Road cleanup, and we had good attendance. It was very successful and went very smoothly. After that, in mid-September, we visited the Rumpke Sanitary Landfill and their materials recovery facility in Cincinnati, which was hosted by Bill Goins, our own CAC member. And it was a really appreciated and very enlightening experience for all of us. I think most, if not all of us, had been to, or had not been to, a landfill or a MRF before. So it was very educational. Also, at our following meeting in September, we had guest speaker Matt Wasserman from Community Food Cycle, who has received, it's actually located in New Jersey, and he had received a research grant to study scaling up bokashi for, I guess it's a food waste processing method to scale it up to a larger capacity, which isn't currently done anywhere in the US to my knowledge as a food waste processing solution. So he presented on his experience there. And then lastly, and most recently, at the start of this month, I think it was the start of last week, members Matt Austin and I attended the 2023 AISWMD conference up at in Indianapolis. So that was also, at least for me, a very educational experience. I had not attended in person previously, so it was good to be able to connect with other districts, directors, and see how their CACs operated. So that is what we have been up to for the last couple of months.
That was, you've been extremely busy.
Yes, indeed. It was very rewarding.
I'm curious, so I've actually visited that MRF before years ago, and it was, at the time, it was a very, I guess, kind of hands-on and manual and pretty dirty business. And I'm curious to what degree there have been more developments in automation over that time.
Yeah, I can at least say that I would estimate this is my own personal assessment. I think about less than half of it was hands-on, but is still very much essential. They had mentioned that they never expect that it will be a fully automated process because of, I guess, physical limitations with the material that comes in and the particularly plastic films that come in and are difficult for machinery to process that are still sorted by hand. But they do have optical scanners and a couple of other recent upgrades that they made to their technology to improve the quality of their sorting capabilities. So there was a good representation of both.
I remember the employees had to work very quickly. I mean, it was really kind of quite something to watch the sorting operation. So. Also, quickly, what road, you mentioned the Adopta road. What road does the CAC?
Oh, goodness. It is Old 37 south of, gosh, Tom, do you happen to remember off the top of your head?
From Aurora Road to Fairfax Road.
Thank you, there it is.
Oh, great. Terrific. Yeah. Okay. Any questions for Mr. Winia? Please.
Yes, thank you for your report and for all of your activities. I noticed in the departmental report from Mr. McGlasson later in our meeting packet that you were actually a presenter at the AIS WMD conference. What did you present on?
That is correct. There was a session hosted on working with your board and your CAC. So I represented the CAC portion of that and just had a brief speaking period to talk about our CAC here, how it's structured, and kind of recommendations or suggestions for CAC operations for other districts.
That's great. Spreading the good model that we've developed here.
Yeah, we actually shared our bylaws as well, and there was, I think, 2 directors after the session who had asked for some of those resources for reference. So I think it was fruitful in that sense to be able to take what we've successfully implemented here and to provide it to other districts who may be able to benefit from it as well.
Great. Well, I just encourage you and I guess Mr. Austin was the other CAC member. If there are ideas that you learned at the conference that you think maybe the district should take a look at, please let us know.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. We'll move on to department reports.
Yeah, I guess I can start and just announce for those that may be watching that Elisa Poe-Krall is scheduling educational programming for this current school year and has advised that she does still have some openings. So, any teachers, educators, or youth-related groups that would be interested in her programming can certainly reach out and contact her at the district's office, 812-349-2020. She'd be more than happy to try to get something scheduled. And I will add a little bit on to Mr. Winia's report that some staff also toured the Rumpke facilities as well. And thanks to the CAC for scheduling and coordinating that trip. As impressive as the MRF in Cincinnati was, I probably even am more astonished that Rumpke is currently building a $100 million MRF in Columbus, Ohio. That will be more advanced than the one in Cincinnati, with the idea being that once that is up and running, they are going to shut the Cincinnati facility down to update and upgrade that facility, since they will be able to divert that material to Columbus, with a little more transportation, but they think that in the long run, those 2 investments will be well worth it for recycling in this area. So I was very, very pleased to hear that, that they're, making that type of investment in recycling. Our budget is moving through the county council process. As you can see, September 14th, it was presented and accepted but unanimously by the council. They had a public hearing on that on October the 3rd, where there were no public or council comments. And then this past Tuesday was the first reading, and next Tuesday is the scheduled vote for adoption of the budget. So given the lack of questions and comments, I think we're on good footing and should get that budget adopted by the council next week. And then, as mentioned, we had, Mr. Austin and Mr. Winnie from the CAC attended the association conference. Additionally, we had a number of staff members that attended that. Myself, Mr. Long, Ms. Pokral, and Ms. Strand attended both days, or I attended, myself, Ms. Pokral, and Ms. Strand attended both days of the conference. Mr. Long attended the second day of the conference. But we also had 4 other staff members that came up on that Monday to tour the Recycle Force facility, which is a neat operation, and they have a very neat model. Working with taking former inmates, trying to get them skills and rehabilitate them or reacclimate them to the community and put them in a position to go out in the community and succeed. And they're doing some neat stuff, and I think there might potentially be some opportunities for the district to funnel some materials through them that we currently aren't able to get recycled. So we'll see what we can work out with them. And beyond that, you have 2 months worth of media and education reporting in there, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I do have a question also.
Please.
About the Effect TV. With more people going to streaming platforms, do these ads show up on different streaming platforms, or is it only through AT&T or Comcast? Do you know?
Where our programming is airing, our I guess television advertising contract is solely with Comcast, so it's either their cable platform or their streaming platform, and that is actually have some meetings scheduled in the next couple of weeks to look at options for 2024 and what we're going to do there. So.
Yeah, I was actually just wondering the same thing. I only have streaming in my house, and I don't think I see any local ads at all. I mean, we do see ads, but they're not.
And again, if your provider is not Comcast, you wouldn't. Right. And then even if it is Comcast, depending on what shows or networks you're watching,
it is Comcast, but it's internet only. And then when you get stream,
that's what in the media summary in there. That's what the premium digital is. That's the streaming platform. But again, it's based on time of day, what network or show you're streaming or watching, as to whether or not the way that their pricing works. I mean, some networks cost more than others, so we try to, limit costs and get biggest bang for the buck.
I guess I just worry that Comcast has lost business because of the additional competition in this area. And with that, I think that there probably are fewer viewers to even see.
Well, yeah, and again, that's, we have some meetings coming up in the next couple of weeks to look at what we're going to do for 2024. And I don't know that, we want to eliminate Comcast from what we're doing, but do we need to look at other streaming providers and getting our commercials on those as well?
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, anything else? Yes, Mr. Mayor.
You guys probably know more about this than I do, but I wonder if it's worth just trying to pay somebody a little bit to almost do an informal kind of outreach bidding. I agree with the points that were just made, but it's complicated and I don't pretend to understand it, but there may be somebody who could help us say, to various outlets, Comcast and others, if we spend X, 50 grand or whatever it is, what can you do for us? What kind of placements can you make? And it might be quite different from that. Anyway, I'm sure there are people out there, I'm not one of them, and it may not be worth it, but it's just something to think about who could help us. I forget, what's our overall budget spend on that, do you know, roughly, annually?
It's between 20 and 25,000.
All right, yeah. I don't know if it's worth paying somebody to place that, but it's something to think about, and others may know a lot more about that than I do.
I think that's certainly worth investigating, and we can see who we can find that might be able to, help steer us in the, the direction to go to reach the most people.
Some of us politicians have spent money on that kind of thing, but I haven't lately, so I don't know. But there may be others who have, who basically, what bang can I get for this buck? And it may be quite different from what we're doing. I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Well, should we move on to Mr. Long?
Hi, everyone. I will start with the recycling and reuse down here at the main site. It's operating as normal. They're very happy with the new forklift. It has some new features, some safety features that our old one didn't have. Other than that, like I said, it's operating as normal. The materials for the arts, we had a really neat lady come in. She had a ledger from the 1800s that she contacted people here in town. I don't know who all she contacted, but nobody wanted it, and she didn't really want it recycled. She didn't want it thrown away. We reached out to Erica Goebel, the Wheatland town clerk, and they was very excited to get it. She drove up the very next day, and they wanted to get it on display. It had some really neat stuff in it, and it was one of those items that should be passed on to where people can see it. One of the other neat things that we've been working on outside of all the normal stuff we do is there's been a lot of foster homes for animals here lately that's contacted us looking for different stuff to repurpose to take care of the animals. So we've been doing that quite a bit in the last couple of months. Keep the cost down for them where people can keep doing it. The Green Business Network, with our survey we sent out a few months ago, we've got all the information back. Kayla Stringand has been answering a lot of questions. Through the survey we asked, not just the normal recycling that we do, because a lot of them knows the normal recycling, but she reached out to find out what other stuff they may have or want to repurpose, reuse, how to recycle it. And she's been dealing with that. And, we've met with some businesses, so that's been really nice and great to help those people with some other stuff. The hazardous materials, we are doing end of the year shipments. The heritage shipment, we're probably going to do one more to clean out the hazmat. We're going to have probably another electronic shipment, another Freon shipment. They get everything cleaned out for the first of the year. Wintertime's a little bit slow for us. And, then we're right back at it. Springtime, everybody's cleaning stuff up and we'll be busy. So we got to prepare for that. The rural recycling centers, we have 2 sites that's going to need some definite parking lot work. It's that time of year where, it's time to fix some potholes, some new gravel, some grade work. We need to fix some areas around the boxes. So we talked to our contractor about getting him out there, and I'm hoping to meet with him hopefully next week about starting that stuff. And that's what I have. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you very much. I will say the one thing I'm very much looking forward to is once we get this rebranding off the ground, new signage at the rural sites. So that's I know that's definitely been kind of an issue, but I know that's not something you can really do anything about right now without wasting money. So
we do have all the new signage stuff up and ready. We're just waiting on a new name, new logo. I've reached out to a couple places about getting pricing. So we're prepared for that. We're just in limbo right now.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Long?
I do want to add one thing regarding recycling. Unfortunately, Within the past year, Morgan County, in essence, dissolved their solid waste district, absorbed it as a county department. And then what's happened recently, they've shut down their recycling facilities. So we're getting a lot of calls, and we're starting to see more traffic from Morgan County residents, which at this time, we're going to let that go. We want to do what we can to encourage those people to keep recycling. We'll just have to see what it does to our volumes and what kind of economic impact that has.
So Morgan County residents don't have any recycling options right now.
Monroe County and Johnson County.
Marion County.
That's too
Yeah.
bad.
Do you happen to know how many counties in Indiana don't have recycling?
Off the top of my head, I don't, but I can
It's
certainly
not-
get that information together. It's out there.
Yeah, it's not that important.
I take
just
it the
curious.
cities and towns, the Mooresville and Martinsville, don't have curbside recycling.
I honestly don't know. I don't know what the municipalities are doing with regard to collection, if they even offered recycling collection to begin with. Just not familiar with that much detail in that county.
Thank you.
Right.
So I thought that each county was required to have a solid waste management district.
There was a change to that law made 4 or 5 years ago that allowed a county to dissolve the solid waste district with the caveat that the county had to do something to continue the existing services that were offered by that district. So what's going on in Morgan County, I don't know, and I can't really speak to that. But that's my understanding of the law that was passed, that if and there's a process to go through to formally dissolve your solid waste district, and part of that process is the county showing how they're going to continue to provide the services.
So there is some hope that maybe Morgan County is going to provide something.
Maybe.
I won't hold my breath. Thank you.
I wanted to congratulate Mr. Long and the others that work with him for, first of all, identifying that, I don't know, antique ledger and seeing to it that it stayed in the public hands. I really applaud that. But I also this is the first time I've seen anything come through where you're repurposing items for animals. And I encourage the public, if they have things, to make those available. I think that's incredible.
Right. Thank you. All right, Mr. Paulson.
Hey, Lee Paulson, Landfill and Environmental Compliance Director. I've included the past 2 months worth of meeting notes or updates on what's going on at the landfill and the compliance stuff. It has been an extremely dry summer once again, so our treatment system we have not operated since May. And then in June, we cleaned the pond out to remove that invasive weed again. And since then, we have not had enough rain to get anything going. Knock on wood, which is okay. I'm okay with that. So we've just been continuing to repair and maintain things. I had all the manholes flushed around the closed landfill. This past month, we completely drained the treatment tank and got in and cleaned out the aerators and all the kind of stuff like that. We do that every couple of years anyways, but looking for interior damage inside the tank that we can get repaired while we're not operating, and so therefore we don't have any issues. Compliance cases are kind of right on target with where they were last year. The super hot summer and dry summer, it was difficult to be on the side of the roads because couldn't really capture any of the trash and waste along the side of the roads. We're getting out now as people in the highway departments and the city departments have been mowing along the roadways. So we've been out there more these past couple weeks. Other people are out. Our adopted road numbers are going back up. So everything is kind of moving in that direction. That's kind of where we're at. So if you guys have any questions about the the reports, let me know, and I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Paulson from the left?
I just want to compliment you on 63 cleanups so far this year.
The adopter roads, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, that's Mary Beth has done a great job with interacting with the people involved with those volunteers, you know, because that's what they are. They're volunteers that are giving up their time to go out there and pick up trash on the side of the road that they didn't put there. So I really, truly give her a lot of credit. The addition of that extra employee, which is now Danny Persifield, has really taken some of the burden and some things off of her list and on my list that he can go do, so that we can focus on some of those things to keep keep people engaged and actively seek out. We know what roads we go out and clean up on a routine basis. So Mary Beth is she knows a lot of people in the community. She's lived in this community for a long time. So she's reaching out to companies and people that have organizations that she's familiar with and be like, hey, this would be a great opportunity to get a little free advertising, do a little bit of good for the community. It's a good thing in general, and giving her that opportunity that, so it's been a good thing all around.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Paulson? Thank you very much, sir. All right, then we'll move on to public comment. Are there any members of the public who'd like to make comment on an item that's not on our agenda today? Okay, seeing none. Do we have any comments from directors from the left? Please.
I just want to remind everyone that the Hoosier Hills Food Bank's annual book sale is going on right now. It's open today until 7. It's open tomorrow from 9 till 7. And then Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday from 9 until 6. This is an incredible way to reuse things. And it's not just books. It's DVDs, it's puzzles, it's stuffed animals even. In fact, I ran into our controller, Kathy Martin, out there this morning. So I want to encourage people to both participate in this because it does reduce things, but also I think it's an incredible nonprofit in our community.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. From the right. On Zoom?
I just put something in the chat. I hope it goes in the record, thanking our staff for monitoring the costs related to that Morgan County stuff. It's good to try to help, but I do think it's important to monitor any costs of that too. So thanks for that, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so we are adjourned.